Yo, GM. Let me turn this down. GM. What is good, everybody? It's your boy 0xRapture on this Tuesday afternoon. We're going to get this underway. It's been a few days since the last stream. Time to fire one up. How is everybody doing? Just going to share a few things around and I will get underway very shortly. Dun. Okay, apologies about that. How is everybody doing today? Not too many in the crowd. It's a bit of a weird time of day to stream, depending on where you are in the world. Like 2-3 p.m. in the afternoon on a Tuesday, but you know what? I figured it has been a little while, so we might as well get this underway. I'm gonna go through all the usual introduction stuff. I am 0xRapture, and this is Astrology for Men, coffee, charts, and a cigarette, where I will chart any shitcoin with a pulse. Focus has been on perps for the last, I don't know, probably 2 months since I've shifted the majority of my focus back to that arena. Although the trenches are definitely heating back up a bit. So there's definitely opportunity in the new launch arena in the trenches, if that is where you prefer to do your business. I want to give a shout out to the sponsors of the show, The Daily Edge, tcoin.com. Where is my mouse? There we go. Okay, 1 second. Let me turn the music off. Give a shout out to the sponsors of the show. Apologies about that. The Daily Edge, thedailyedge.com/subscribe, which is a newsletter written by my good friend, the one, the only on-chain wizard, full of actionable intel, insights, and information about the market from the day before that you can use to put towards your trading decisions. In particular, a lot of information about what took place on chain the day before, but there's also some discussion on what are the outperforming assets and perps, and just some of the macro things taking place every day, as macro seems to be on everybody's mind lately with the clusterfuck that the US has put us into. Want to give a shout out as well to ChainEDGE, ChainEDGE.io, which is an on-chain analytics platform tracking the top 0.01% of DEX traders by profitability, monitoring the real-time flows, portfolio holdings, attention in the market, smart follows, all that good stuff. You can find that at ChainEDGE.io. And you can find links in the About section below if you're joining from Twitch, or in the description for the video on YouTube, or if you're joining from X, as I know many of you are these days. And I do like streaming to X. I think it's a really streamlined process. It's just, I'm not sure. I guess people, when they want more in depth, they're probably going to YouTube, but that's why I'm doing to all 3 platforms. But if you're looking for that information on X, you can go to my profile. Don't forget to follow me on there, and you can find links to access probably the best place to go is to the Daily Edge Telegram channel, which is where I write down my thoughts. I use it as a journal from day to day. And you can find the various links to get at me that way. And don't forget to follow and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the show. Okay, we got all that out of the way, all of that stuff. Just check the chat. JJ, what's good, buddy? Smaller turnout today. But you know what? It's been a few days, and it is a weird time of day. Always appreciate seeing you here, JJ. Although the streaming aggregator that I'm using says there's about 100 people watching right now. So for everyone who is joining us, welcome. I appreciate you all. I'm going to pull up my screen. This is what I want. Here we've got Bitcoin chart. For those of you that are a part of the Daily Edge 0xRapture's Thoughts Telegram channel, I posted yesterday, and I do recommend you guys go and join and sub to that channel because I do put out my thoughts throughout the day and post trade setups and ideas a little bit more frequently than anywhere else. By that, over the last since last week, really, I've gone back to the drawing board on perfecting entry setup triggers on low time frame. Like, it's all fine and all to know directionally where we're going on high time frame, our supply and demand zones, but I wanted to improve the hit rate on entry triggers. So that has been my focus for the last for about the last week. Like, I've had a solid system, but I wanted to tighten it up a bit more. And I've been doing extensive back testing. I came across this software where you can go in and you can back test your strategies. You just pick a point in time of chart history, and it just starts it from that moment, as if what came after hasn't happened yet. So you can just run it and execute your trades as it's unfolding, as if it's live. Although you can speed up the candles printing so that you're not sitting there for hours and hours and hours, but you can run through like a quarterly session, like a 3-month session, in about 2 hours if you really sit there and stick to it. So I've been really focused on nailing my entry trigger setups and exits as well. And actually what spurred that was last week we nailed the entry on a soul long, but then I just fucked up the exit. Exited way too early. We could have had a much better trade. And that's what really triggered it, because I was like, you know what does it matter if we get a brilliant entry if we're fumbling the exit? So I just wanted to brush up on my skills, improve in those areas. And that's what it's all about, right? Like, you have your system, you trade your system, but you're always tweaking to try and improve it little bits here and there. Sorry, 1 second. I need to turn my fan on. It's a little bit warm in my office. There we go. What good is nailing an entry if you're going to fumble the exit? Because there was a lot of meat left in that move. I just wasn't playing it to the right target. And what I found is what I was doing was I was micromanaging the trade. Like, I knew on higher time frames where I thought it was going to go, but because the entry that we took was on M15, I was managing it like a fucking idiot on M15, which isn't exactly what you should do, especially if your entry was solid based off of a high time frame area just with a low time frame trigger. So that sent me down the rabbit hole of just really working on perfecting what I'm doing. For those of you that have been with me for a while, you'll know that way back in, late 2021, 2022, when I first started learning TA and how to trade, it was on perps. Like, I was cutting my teeth in the perps markets. But then over time, I transitioned fully to on-chain into the new launch shitter arena. I was applying what I learned there and did pretty well at it. But I've sort of come back full circle. Like, I know some of you know that I'm a little bit older. I'm not a youngin' anymore, and being day to day in the front lines of the trenches, it's fucking exhausting. I'm not ashamed to admit that. The pace is just not what I'm looking for anymore, and just being able to mark out high time frame areas and wait for those setups to hit and take those trades on a longer time frame with perps is just fitting more into where I'm at, and the pace is much better. The controlled risk aspect is much better. And overall, I've just been really enjoying it and nailing the analysis too. So, I took what I learned on chain. Well, the sequence was like I took what I learned in perps, I applied that to on chain and tweaked it for on chain. The nuances of how on chain shitters trade. And now I've come full circle back to perps, and I'm readjusting the system for that arena, but also incorporating what I learned from the 2 years of trading on chain. So it's been a fun experience. And now it's just about refining the system back to perps so that it's locked in beautifully. So that's why recently I went down and just got to work, got busy, focused on the entry triggers and exit triggers. It's not quite 100% yet. Well, there's no such thing as 100%, but I mean, in terms of where I want it to be, I don't quite have it at 100% yet, but I'm, been running these back testing sessions while still trading live in the market. It's always good to have skin in the game. So there's actually something on the line when you're taking these trades, right? But doing these back testing sessions, especially, as I was just talking about, when you're trading perps, you have sometimes days, hours and hours, or sometimes days to kill in between trades. So it's a good way to brush up on time. And if anyone's actually curious about that software platform, excuse me, I've also been battling a bit of a cough for a little while. My son was pretty sick last week, so it's been circulating around the household. But if anyone is interested, sorry, I'm rambling. Fucking focus, Rapture. Fucking focus. If anyone is curious about that backtesting software, it is called FX Replay, fxreplay.com. I don't have a ref link or anything like that for you guys. I just came across this software. It's quite simple and easy to use, and it's quite effective. You essentially just approach it as if you're live trading. You get your setups, you take your triggers, you set up your longs or your shorts, and you limit or market in. It's all really simple. And then you watch the trade unfold, and either you were right or you were wrong. And then at the end of it, at the end of whatever length of time you determine your session to be, it gives you your hit rate, it gives you your profitability, it gives you the days of the week that you do, like your performance on different days of the week, different sessions, like different times of day, like the New York session, Asian session. It gives you the ratio of whether you were taking more longs or shorts, like all kinds of very useful information so that you can adjust and make note of the areas where you, where either you made a mistake or that the system just didn't work out, because no system is 100%, right? Like you're going to have trades that don't work out. But the main thing is, provided you know what your risk reward is and you set it accordingly and you're using the right amount of risk per trade and you're targeting 2 or 3 to 1 minimum, then the amount of the wins should far outweigh the losses. And actually, the initial back testing with adjusting these setup triggers for me has been quite solid. So I'm excited to share that with you guys once I've got it tweaked a little bit more. But until then, I'm going to stick with the high time frame stuff and just give you guys ideas of where I'm looking for trades, as we usually do, and then some idea of what those entries might look like. But yeah, fxreplay.com. They do have there's like a free trial version, or like a free version, but it's too basic. All you need is 1 month. Like, you're not going to be sitting there back testing for months and months and months. Otherwise, like, trading isn't for you. You need to be actually trading. So you really only need a month of the subscription. But even with that, if you sign up, they give you a 5-day free trial. And I don't even think I'm going to need much more than that once because I've been running about 2 backtesting sessions a day for the last 3 days, or 2. Actually, I just started the backtesting part yesterday. So I've been running like 2 sessions per day. And by the end of 5 days, I think I'll be pretty good on that front. So you may not even need to sub for a whole month, but I think it's like $18 for a 1-month sub. I think it's very valuable information to take in, and I would definitely recommend doing that. Sparky, what website are you using for backtesting? fxreplay.com. And they have equities, Forex, but also crypto. So you can backtest on Bitcoin, ETH, and a few others. They don't have Solana on there, which would like to see. But I mean, if you get in sync with Big Daddy Bitcoin, you can take your trades off of other charts based off of what you think Bitcoin's going to do anyways. So just getting really in sync with Bitcoin. The key is, though, like, don't go and backtest like the last month that just happened, because what happened will be too fresh in your mind that it'll be too easy to kind of predict what's going to happen. You need to go to a part of the chart that either you have no knowledge about, or that it's been so long that, like, the nuance of like taking low time frame entries on certain, for whatever your triggers are, won't be fresh of mind. You just want to kind of go into it blind, as if it had never happened. You want to eliminate any potential that you have an edge of prior knowledge, is all I would say. But yeah, very, very useful, and I've been enjoying it. Oh, and what else is great too is because, we're all about the 2 time frame system, right? Like, you have your high time frame for bias, and then your low time frame for setups and triggers. Well, what's great is you can really go through and figure out which time frames you trade best off of, and which ones give you the best triggers. Like, recently, because I come from the new launch market on chain, and where it's just like trade, and firing off and firing clips like all day long. It has been an adjustment to like clicking less, which I do actually embrace and I want to do, but I'm still like, there's times where I'm like, okay, I need to be trading. So I've been playing around with H4 M15 setups, like H4 for high time frame and then M15 for entry exit setups. But putting that through the back testing has really highlighted that M15 is just so much noise that I just don't even know that I want to do that, because the hit rate is nowhere near as tight as going higher time frame, like D1 or daily H4 or H12 H1, the trader main special. And actually, through backtesting, I mean, gotta hand it to Maine. Through backtesting, it does seem like H12 H1 might be the best 2 time frame system to be using, just because of the amount. It gives you a little bit more detail than daily H4, as well. If you're waiting for an entry trigger off an H4 structure break, it's just a lot later than you would be getting on the H1. So gotta give it to Maine again. Big shout out to Trader Maine. So I may actually be adjusting how I do things moving forward back to H12 H1. Like, I used to do H12 H1 years ago, and then when I moved on chain, a lot of platforms just didn't have H12 charts. I know I'm rambling a bit here, and apologies for that, but like, just it's good to talk these things out and get my thoughts out there. But the reason why I adjusted off of H12 H1 was because a lot of on-chain platforms like Bullx, and others don't have H12. So I was like, well, I got to trade what I'm being given. So I switched to daily and H4. And just H1 to me on chain is so much noise, especially the older a chart gets. Like trying to trade hourly for on-chain shitters is just so much noise that I just don't think there's much signal in that. But now that I'm back to pretty much exclusively trading perps, like I'll take the occasional on-chain trade. I just have zero focus in that arena right now that I found that recently I've just been buying tops. So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to stick to where I'm focused right now. Like there's that great saying, right? Like a jack of all trades, well, a jack of many, master of none. And I'm on a mission of mastery. I want to be elite level mastery of what I'm doing. And so I'm just keeping all my focus there and just essentially tuning on chain out. Unless it's, I have some friends going like, yo, this is the one, like, although they're all the one, right? But like, for me, it's just better to be focused and not spread myself across too many verticals. Because I do believe that you can just have a long and wonderful career just taking these trades, because you can apply it to any market, right? Like say there's a period of time where crypto is just no movement, no volatility. Well, you can go trade other markets with this system, right? So that's why I'm just focused on mastery in this realm. Okay, enough of that rambling. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. So let's wheel it back. Where's my mouse? I keep losing my mouse today. What's going on? Okay, so weekly. When we drew this out, we've had this run out for a long time. Weekly range high, weekly range low. It's a bearish weekly range. Well, last week we closed taking out 3 different weekly lows. So quite a significant level of SFPs that took place here. In the process, we finally put in a daily higher high. First daily higher high since we lost the daily all the way. What was the last daily higher high? Here. All right. Yeah, this was the last daily higher high since here. Since the end of January. Since then, it's been lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, right? Like it's been down only in terms of daily time frames. In between there's been lower time frames that have switched market structure, but this is the first daily market structure flip to bullish since the dump end of January. So I mean that's significant, right? We can also go to H12. You can see the same thing, right? Why is this the daily range though? So let's just clean some of this up so that I can walk you guys through why this is. Get rid of all that. So this was the daily lower low, right? We had our range from there to there. This was our bearish daily range that we'd been trading in for weeks. Swing high to swing low, that created a lower low when it closed below this level here. Why there? Well, because these were just wicks, wick, wick. Well, that was actually a close below. So this was our daily range. Then over here, we had another daily close below the range, which made this our daily range. Bearish daily range, right? Swing high to swing low, that created a lower low. That's how we outline and define our range. Well, since then, price has now closed above. Closed above here, right? So we do that. And we've got our swing high here. So now we're in a bullish daily range. I'll just rewind back so we can bring up the other stuff that was here before. Oops. Now we're in a bullish daily range. Well, we seem to be putting in an SFP of the range high. And this is our breaker zone, right? It was supply that got flipped into demand when price closed above it. So we have our breaker zone here. We go down to H12 as well. We can clearly see that SFP. We don't know that it's an SFP for another 4.5 hours, but I'm going to say it's fairly safe to say it is going to close like that. Some version of this, even if it comes up, it's looking like it's going to be an SFP of the range high, which is fine because what we're looking for, since we're saying we're bullish, right? Like we got weekly SFPs. And where's supply for weekly? It's all the way up here. So we think, okay, with this weekly SFP here, maybe we can get a push up into here. Well, in the between time of trying to pull that all off, we're looking for a higher low so that we can get long up into here potentially. I mean, we're gonna have to see what happens here. This was a key level before that we SFP'd many times. Like we can see the importance of a range high SFP, right? SFP, SFP, SFP sold off. SFP sold off. Well, SFP sold off. So range highs, SFPs are significant and range lows as well. Well, I think the next move is to find a higher low somewhere in here. But we need to wait for those triggers. And this is some of the stuff that I've been trying to improve upon, right? So maybe it's an H4 SFP down in here. Maybe it's some sort of H1 move. We can also throw up the Monday range. We can see, right? Like we also SFP'd the Monday range high. We're almost back at the Monday low. This Monday range is so tiny that I don't really want to frame any trades on it, other than this was a pretty good signal, right? Like you had daily range high, SFP'd it on H4, SFP'd the Monday high, closed within. Pretty good signal it wanted to go lower. But this range is so tiny, like there's not really much to trade off of on that. Here we've got H1. No, you guys might remember I've recently said that I've been playing around with these EMAs and DEMAs for low time frame triggers. To be honest with you, playing around with them, I don't actually think I really like using them. I'm leaning more back towards just keeping it clean and going off of the triggers that I know on the chart. It might be nice as a little bit of confluence, but the thing is, when monitoring them on low time frames, like it's going to skew your perspective. And they are still slightly lagging indicators. Like I also took a journey down looking into order flow and heat maps and all that stuff. And it's fancy and pretty and it looks nice on the chart. And it's like, oh, look at me. I'm so fucking smart. Like I've got all these things on my chart and like this. But for me, and a lot of guys trade really well with it, and not taking anything away from guys that use all that stuff at all, not whatsoever. Like use the system that works for you and what makes sense for you. And all I found was it was just adding more noise to what I was already seeing on the chart. And then it became more of like a psychological thing. It's like, well, why am I looking for all this confluence across other things when I'm confident in the way that I'm analyzing a chart to begin with? Okay. So we're getting that H12 SFP. We'll get rid of the Monday range because I don't think it's overly important this week. We've also put in an H1 lower low. So it's, there's a valid short here, especially if this H12 closes like this, which is looking like it's very likely, that you look for some move up into here. Short, like, yes, it's moved off it quite a bit, but, this is H1. So you're going to put in a lower low, lower high, until reaching a higher time frame area that you want to do business, right? Like we've got this H4 range here. Maybe it just comes into here and gives us an SFP. But ideally, within this daily breaker also happens to be an H12 breaker. The H12 is just a little bit tighter. Is we're looking for price to come somewhere in here to form the higher low. And what that might look like, unclear yet because, those triggers have to form. But let's just say you get some sort of level down here. Let's put this on H4. Let's just say you get some sort of level down here where price comes into it and closes through, closes above, well, then you're looking to buy somewhere here. You're looking for some sort of trigger like that. This is what I'm looking for, because it does look as though it's doing that pullback. But until it gives some sort of trigger like that, like I'm not just blind aping any of this. Like maybe it comes down all the way to the H12 range low. This is H12 range, right? Maybe price comes all the way down to this H12 range low and gives you an SFP there. Well, then you have a very clear trigger because your invalidation is quite clear. You'd be retesting a weekly level, so that would get a lot of people nervous, right? A lot of people on the timeline would be like, oh, it's so over again. But that's why we have these high time frame areas, right? It's to look for the areas where we want to do business and think that the smart players are going to step in. And we like being on the side of the smart traders. All right, so looking for some version of this. What that looks like yet, I don't know. But we want price to come somewhere into the daily breaker. Also happens to be H12 breaker. Maybe it's just into H12 demand, right? Like if we want to tighten this up and just do classic order block style, classic trader, trader main style, ICT type entries, well, maybe it comes into this H12 order block, this H12 demand, and you get some sort of price action that looks like something like this, or maybe something like this happens here, right? But you're looking for something like that somewhere in this region. It may not even come all the way down that far, right? Like you do have this H12 level here. Like maybe it just SFPs this level and then gives you an entry fractal on low time frame, right? Because this whole area, this whole daily breaker is where we're looking for price to come. I know that's, can seem vague a little bit, but it's those if this, then that scenarios. If this happens, then that. If that happens, then this, which is all that trading is. You get really good at being adaptable in the moment. Because if you go into it like with a very pig-headed attitude that it has to do this and nothing else makes sense or nothing else can happen, like you just right off the bat, that's a losing mentality to have in trading, right? Because truly there should be no bullish or bearish, right? Like a chart trades both ways. You just want to try and find this area with the highest probability and be able to get yourself on board those trades in the right areas so that you can be on board for when the trade moves in the direction you think it will. So these are the type of things we're looking for here on Bitcoin. We can take a look at ETH, although I don't really know how many people are trading ETH other than for shorting. So ETH has taken out a monthly level, right? It's taken out a bunch of monthly levels there. Still half a month left, so we don't know. It could close below, and that'd be a different story, but it's taken out a monthly level. Looks as though weekly held that monthly level, right? Like you're getting a weekly SFP. Off of that monthly level, we have our weekly supply here. Yes, this is a large area, but say you get a weekly close above there. I mean, this would be a beautiful breaker for long. But we want to try and find stuff lower time frame, right? Well, lower time frame, ETH is still, unlike Bitcoin, which is flip bullish, ETH is still bearish on daily. We've got this fair value gap here that's been capping price, but we can see swing high, swing low, bearish daily range on ETH. It did put in this SFP down here, but then it ran up into this fair value gap, and that's been really capping price. And you can see, we're SFPing up here on daily. We take a look on H12. Now, one thing that I do see actually, because I have been studying a lot lately, like as much as I am confident in the system that I use, I still want to tweak and improve. And there is something that I see here is that we did put in a breaker there, right? Like it was a high that took out a low. We closed above. So the bull case for ETH is that you're looking for this to hold, right? This is the bull case for ETH. Is looking in here somewhere to print a higher low. It just hasn't done that yet. And if Bitcoin's going to come down, like who knows where this is going to finally find its floor? And who knows? Maybe that was the top, like that bounce on Bitcoin. Maybe that was it. Who knows? If this, then that, right? You have to be prepared for any scenario. But in terms of ETH, I mean, you had H12 SFPs after yesterday's daily close, right? Like you already got a daily close there. So if you want to just stick with the bearish mindset about it or the bearish bias about it, daily SFP yesterday, H12 SFP yesterday. Well, what do you have here? H1 lower low. Right? Like this whole zone here is a short. But since we're leaning towards the bias that Bitcoin is looking for a higher low, where does that go next? And if you're not trying to trade the chart all day long or micromanage things too much, you're trying to say to yourself, okay, where does the next higher low on ETH form? If we're looking for it somewhere in here, well, maybe it comes back down to here, maybe even down to here. It just depends on where Bitcoin wants to go, but we'd be looking for similar, right? Like on Bitcoin, we're looking for some sort of SFP on low time frames within demand to give us some sort of trigger to get long. Well, we'd be looking for something similar on ETH. I think you really want this monthly level to hold, though. You know, you can see buyers have stepped in there, so maybe it comes down to just test this level again. Maybe it gives you another SFP here. Then you have a risk-defined trade, right? Because you stop below the wick. You'd say, okay, that was the stop run. That was the liquidity hunt. We think price is going to trade higher. This is where I think it's going to do that from. Well, then you have a risk-defined trade. ETH is just a tricky one to want to long, right? I really just don't really have much desire to want to long ETH. Like, let's take a look at ETH BTC, right? Like, is this bottoming? Maybe. But I don't think you really want to be choosing ETH over Bitcoin when there's no bottom in sight on ETH BTC. So shorting, yes, higher beta. Longing, not necessarily. Let's take a look at Solana. So Solana looks like it's trying to put in this massive SFP. You know, it's taken out all these lows here on monthly. Yes, we got that close below, which was the level that capped it when it shoved us down. Well, it looks like it's trying to recapture that monthly level. Here we are on weekly. There's the weekly swing high. Weekly swing low. It's hanging on for dear life onto that monthly level, right? So if Bitcoin's going to rip, like, and find a higher low, this thing could put in a nice move. Also, similar to Bitcoin, Solana put in that daily bullish market structure, right? Put in a higher high. I don't know if you guys remember, but the trade that we took on Solana was here. It was literally the fucking Pico bottom. And I fucking, horrible execution on the upside. This is what happens when you micromanage on low time frames, because you see things that occur. And realistically, on H4, like, we were looking for it to at least take out that level. And it went out to do quite a decent move. So that was a fumble on my part, everyone. Apologies. Which is why I'm leaning more and more towards less low time frame trading when I'm doing this. Especially since the backtesting data is showing that just waiting for the higher time frame zones and taking the entries off of that and just letting it unfold is a much better hit rate and risk to reward. Of course, the risk to reward is better that way. Okay, so Solana put in a daily SFP yesterday. I've actually been in a short on this since yesterday after it put in this H12 SFP. Because I think price is either coming down into here or coming down into here. But it's similar story to everything, to Bitcoin, right? Like put in a higher high. Well, now we're trying to find the higher low. Where does that form? Maybe it's in this daily breaker. You also have daily demand right here. A lot of things line up there, right? On H12, right? We have H12 demand, which overlaps with the daily breaker and daily demand. So there's a lot of areas in here where a lower high could form. And I was in a short off of this breaker from yesterday. Stop up here. I haven't been stopped, and it's, pushed up again and come down lower. Not sure how long I'm, although with my bias, right? This is the thing we just talked about. You get your low time frame trigger off a higher time frame bias. Well, my high time frame bias is that price comes into here somewhere. So I'm watching for that to unfold further. I wouldn't be looking to enter this short now because, maybe this monthly level just holds and that's the bottom. We don't know yet. You can see we drill into hourly as soon as it gets close into that monthly level. Buyers are stepping in here, right? All these wicks. So you have an H4 level here too. So maybe, you get that similar thing to Bitcoin that we've been talking about. You get some sort of close there. Something like that. Oops. Some sort of PA like that. Maybe that doesn't happen until lower down into the H12 area, somewhere in here, or maybe it's all the way at the daily level, right? It's like wherever it wants to take place. We can't predict or dictate where that's going to take place. We just have to watch the PA unfold and take the triggers when they come. It's a really good exercise in patience, right? Because if you're taking a trade without the patience and you don't get your setup trigger and you don't know where you're properly invalidated or your risk reward is skewed in your favor, like you're much more liable to fumble that trade, even if it ends up going in the direction you're looking for it to go, or you think that it will trade in. You're much more likely to fumble that if price comes below you, only to find out that was the exact spot where you should be entering, and you were just a little bit too early. So that's why we just wait for those if this, then that's. And the entry may never come, and it may just slice through daily, and then you're shit out of luck. Well, at least you're not entering the trade too early, only to get liquidated or stopped out. So we're just waiting for those triggers right now, right? Like, yes, shorter opportunity here. And like I was saying, this was late a little bit, but like you're still waiting for this H12 to close, right? So there still is opportunity to short into here. From now, though, I would wait until the daily and H12s close before making that kind of move. Like, well, it's starting to move now a little bit, right? We're coming down a little bit deeper. This trigger may never happen as a Bitcoin short, right up into here. You can see actually after it closed below, it already tagged it. Entering early, though, runs the risk of this invalidating the SFP and closing above when it's, too early in the day. But the short is definitely taking place. But I think for now, I'm much more interested in figuring out where the bottom comes in to get in the next long. Does anyone have any questions? Any comments? Chat's pretty quiet today. Any feedback? Any questions? Anything you guys want me to look at? I can look at a couple on-chain shooters if you want me to, We can look at a couple other perps tickers. If not, I'm probably going to wrap it up soon. We got through what I wanted to look at: Bitcoin, Solana. Talked about a few things about the backtesting. Monsieur Fromage, GM, buddy, thanks for being here. Anything you want me to take a look at? All textbook beautiful analysis, Monsieur Fromage says. Appreciate that. I'm just really focused on improving a little bit and a little bit more and a little bit more every day, because I take this seriously. And so I'm just in the pursuit of mastery. And that pretty much means this is the only thing that I'm focused on. No questions really. Maybe Fartcoin, he says. Yeah, we can take a look at Fartcoin. So we have our H12 range on Fartcoin. Let's take a look at daily real quick. You have a daily demand here. You have a lower demand down here, but here's daily demand. H12 put in an SFP yesterday and actually just printed an H1 lower low. So I think there's a strong case, and I pointed this out to some friends earlier today. I think a bounce up into here is a good short. You could even potentially just short now. The thing is, it's a wide stop, like your stop loss is all the way up here. And the risk reward isn't great, because if this is just coming into this daily breaker or this daily demand here, it's not a very long, right? Like your risk reward wouldn't be great on something like that. Let's see, you get an entry here, stop here. Like, I mean, okay, you get 2R if you target towards the bottom of the zone. It's just, is it going to come all the way down that far? There is also a chance, like, not to scare the hose, but like, let's just zoom out a bit, right? That's a little too wide. First leg of a parabola, consolidation, actual parabola, right? Like, once the parabola breaks, it's not, right? Like, this is a parabola, right? It came into an area of daily supply, wicked it, and then put in an H12 SFP within that supply. If it doesn't hold this H12 demand, right? Like, here's your swing low, swing high, there's your H12 range. The SFPs within supply, high time frame supply. If it doesn't hold this H12 demand, yes, you have demand lower down, but if it loses that and the parabola gets broken, I'm not suggesting that's happening. It's just something you need to be aware of. Like, it's gone on quite an epic run in conditions that haven't been overly favorable, right? Like 400% move off the lows. Significant. In conditions that haven't been great. And yes, hot air rises and all that. I'm by no means suggesting this run is done. I'm just saying you have to be more aware of it after a move like that. Once you're getting into high time frame supply and showing signs of rejection, like if it loses this, sure, it may bounce in here, but that probably just ends up in being an underside retest. But for now, you have a short from here and a long in here somewhere. Have I covered the entry exit refinements, or are they work in progress? They're still a work in progress. I touched on them briefly, but not really in depth. I want to refine them a little bit further before I start sharing them. But so far, the evidence is strong on them after doing quite a good amount of back testing. You should rewind back on this episode though, because I was talking a lot about back testing and some software that I've been using that I've been finding really useful to just back test strategies on timeframes and on entry triggers and on targets and stuff like that. So I would recommend Mr. Fromage to go back and take a look at that part. I didn't show the software, but I talked about it and what it's called. fxreplay.com. Would highly recommend. Okay, well, we're almost at an hour. Does anyone else have any other requests? Like I can look at an on-chain shitter or two. You know, maybe why don't we take a look at Hype real quick, because that's been a strong coin recently. You know, it's the Bitcoin Hype fart coin barbell, right? It's the meme at the moment. Okay, well, it's ran right up into this high time frame level, right? Like, is that a weekly level? It's 3-day. 3-day level, cap and price here. Into 3-day supply. 3-day is bearish, but daily is bullish, right? So I would think, and you can clearly see the rejection taking place here. I think you're looking for a higher low within this daily breaker. And this makes sense, right? Like up into 3-day supply. Well, you can move up the time frames, right? And the lower time frames are all flipping back to bullish. Well, now we have to get through this 3-day area. It all makes sense. Take a look on H12. Why did that disappear? Take a look at H12. You can see how price is really interacting with the level, right? Like it interacted with a lot there, interacting with a lot here. So I think you're looking for your higher low somewhere in here. Same thing that we're looking for on everything though, right? Everything is put in, for the most part, we've got bullish market structure flips on daily and H12 and those time frames. Well, we're looking for the higher lows. Some sort of PA. You know, something that looks like that somewhere within this daily breaker. You have an H12 swing right there. So maybe it just takes place here. Oops. You know, maybe you get something like that. Or maybe it wants to come down deeper. You also have this other high time frame area. So those are things that I'd be looking for, right? Like, know the areas where you want to be looking, where you want to be doing your business. We talk about this every stream. Know the higher time frame areas you're looking to do business, and then just wait, have patience, and flip down to low time frames when they get to those areas to look for your triggers. You know, but that'd be a pretty sweet entry right there. Some sort of SFP here. Get a low time frame, higher high. Get the demand retest. Boom. Right, something around 13, 14, 13, maybe as low as 12, somewhere in there. Okay. And on that, I think we're going to wrap it up. Overall, bullish. You have to lean bullish when you get a daily market structure flip on something like Bitcoin back to bullish after getting a weekly SFP. Like those are bullish triggers, even in a high time frame bearish trend. Like you get bullish triggers at the range lows. That's reason to want to be hunting longs. And once again, on Bitcoin, we got that weekly SFP, daily higher high. We're just looking for the higher low. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone. If there's no more questions, I'm going to wrap it up. Once again, I am 0xRapture. This is Astrology for Men, coffee, charts, and a cigarette. I will chart any shitcoin with a pulse. want to give a shout out to the sponsors of the show. The Daily Edge, thedailyedge.com/subscribe, which is a daily newsletter written by my good friend onchain Wizard. It is a free newsletter. I highly recommend you go and subscribe to that so you can get all that intel. Oh, we just got a 4-hour closes. I'm going to take a look at some charts myself in a moment. But you can get all that to your inbox for free and get that intel to make some informed decisions, especially as it pertains to on-chain. As well, ChainEDGE.io. And don't forget, you can find links in the About section or the video description or on my X profile. Don't forget to follow me wherever you enjoy watching these streams, trying to grow the community, trying to give back as much as possible, while also using this selfishly as a way for myself to talk through my system and setups so that I always am sharp. I just find it helps me do that. And on that, I want to say thank you to everyone who joined the show. I appreciate you all. Until next time, probably do another stream. What's today? Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday. I want to get back on a 3-stream per week cadence. I had a bunch of stuff come up over the weekend in IRL that I needed to take care of, so I was a little bit sidetracked, as well as doing all the back testing stuff that I've been doing. So I was a little bit preoccupied over the weekend, but back at it now. And on that, I will catch up with you guys next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Until next time. Ciao.